We decided to tackle a really light topic today.
I mean, light
RFK,
is a word you could use. Sure.
Robert F. Kennedy's forthcoming takeover of the HHS, which is not a carrier ship, but in fact the Health and Human Services. What do you think?
I think that a shakeup probably needs to happen given anecdotally, or just even in my life personally, like I know so many people that are young that are getting sick that shouldn't be getting sick. And like I look at my parents' generation and they're not like this didn't happen with them when they were in their 30s. And so I feel like a shakeup of some sort needs to happen. And so it seems like it's heading in that way. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, I looked up some stats. Life expectancy. US life expectancy fell for the first time, making it the lowest in nearly 2 decades.
What is it at?
For 2021, it was 76.4 years. That's partly because of COVID-19,
Okay.
but also because drug overdose and suicide. Infant mortality, 33rd out of 37 OECD nations. Double of what the rates are in Belgium or Canada, and triple what's in Finland.
Our United States infant mortality is double other
Yeah.
countries similar to us. Wow.
Over 40% of Americans are projected to develop cancer in their lifetime, and more than 50% of adults have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. Yeah, I don't know. The RFK thing and disclosure is like, I'm surrounded by RFK fans, and like I literally work out at the same gym, at Gold's Gym in Venice. My opinion on this is like, how much worse can it get? Like,
I mean,
going into this election, I was like, this is so weird to me that we're not talking about how bad health is. Because like we were just talking like a bunch of your friends literally have cancer right now.
yeah, they're between like 35 and 40. And 4 people that are in my friend group got diagnosed with breast cancer in the last year,
That's not normal.
which is not normal.
That was not an
Yeah.
expectation that we were brought up with.
Mm-mm. Only one of them had it in their family and so was getting regular mammograms. But then the other ones just got their regular scheduled mammograms and found late stage cancer, which
Yeah.
is terrifying because I'm 35. That's too young for people in my age group to be getting cancer.
Yeah. And we're seeing this at our clients.
Yeah. We were on the phone today with a client and their number 2 claim is cancer. And like I keep hearing cancer. I would say even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when we were talking to groups about claims, cancer wasn't usually high up on the list. It was usually like musculoskeletal, diabetes. I mean, they were there, but it wasn't usually 1 or 2. And I keep hearing it's the top lately.
There was an article in the Wall Street Journal just a few weeks ago that actually caught my eye. Living and working with cancer is the new reality. Cancer is striking more young people, and doctors are alarmed and baffled. The tough part here is, for me personally, is like I grew up in very much like the establishment. Like I went to school for public health. The way I used to think about it is something like believing anecdotal data is sort of like where intelligence goes to die. You just start getting swayed by BS, right? Mm-hmm. Now I find myself on the other side of this thing where I'm like looking around and like everybody has something, and these are things that we did not have. So like we're a bit like lobsters that are being boiled slowly, and like we're looking around and suddenly like, oh my God, friends having cancer is suddenly normal. So every day there's something new that they're discovering. Microplastics is like this big thing. Just the first test for microplastics just got released by it'll come to me.
I know exactly. I can picture him.
Yeah, I get products from him. Oh, Blueprint Health.
Yeah.
Blueprint Health.
You said earlier today.
Brian Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said earlier today, like an offhand comment of, it seems like everybody also has like a dietary thing these days. Not.
I was talking about my dating. Yeah.
Yeah. True. So everyone Vlad has dated has a dietary restriction.
No, I mean, this is like it's like kind of crazy too. Like this is just not a factor that was ever. I just don't remember this being a thing. Like I'm 40. When I was 20, the idea of someone being gluten free or being like legitimately allergic to stuff, like this is not autoimmune stuff. It's just all over the place. Our microbiomes are also completely like wrecked. It's very obvious. There's also a huge incentive to deny it, a huge incentive by everybody involved.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess like you kind of can argue one side that science has gotten better in the 20 years, so we're able to detect these things. But I think at the same time, we also are like eating worse food
I'm
and all
sorry.
of that.
That's such BS.
You don't think so?
If I'm sitting next to someone
Mm-hmm.
and they're breaking out in hives because they ate pasta, that's not a hard thing to detect.
Okay, that's true.
That's not like
Yes.
tricky. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes, that's
Like I
an
see it.
allergy.
It's
Yeah.
right there. Like
Yeah.
this is the kind of stuff that it's so broken. And I think there are things about RFK's views on things and his history that are legitimate concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're just on the precipice of like finding out probably a whole lot more about some of the sexual harassment allegations that have been levied against him.
Yeah.
There's a real like values judgment that's around the corner for Congress in America, but really Congress in this case. But like my personal perspective on this is that agency is absolutely effed. If an employee was outputting this kind of outcome, we would fire them. If like a vendor was doing this and that was their job, we would fire them and replace them. I don't feel like there's anything to defend.
Yeah.
Like it's just so wrecked as is. And I think it's also really frustrating to watch it day to day through the airbow lens, because I think sometimes we get a little bit distracted with like, I don't know if we need to be spending the time talking about certain benefits when we can't get the food supply right.
Yeah. I mean, a perfect example is like we were visiting a client in Tucson.
Oh yeah.
We landed and we wanted to go get some dinner, and every food option was fast food. I don't think there was not one restaurant that was not fast food in that local area.
That's right. Yeah, and actually we had to go on site really early, just like a factory worker would go on site really early.
Yeah.
And I love these experiences because I think they all kick our ass a little bit, because you get to like feel like what it is in the day of a life of a normal American working a manufacturing job. If your start time is like 5, 6 a.m., you're getting breakfast at McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
You
like
just are.
Fast and on the go. Yeah.
If we're not doing anything to like protect the food supplies in the name of these workers who are the most disadvantaged in terms of access out of anyone, and they're freaking getting up and they're showing up and they're doing the stuff, like they're working for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're systematically failing.
Yeah.
Systematically failing them every day. So yeah, like if RFK being there is in some way gonna at least make a freaking fuss, great. I'm all for it.
Exactly. Because everybody deserves much easier access to even just healthy food at the most basic human level. And I think there's a lot of communities in this country that they just literally do not have that.
Yeah. What were we saying earlier? Like GLP-1s. This is like the hot topic.
I mean, we just did an open enrollment that used our AI tool, and the number of questions we got about GLP-1s and if they were covered was mind-blowing to me. Like, I want to say it was easily probably 10% of the questions we got. We're putting data together right now, but it was just really shocking that came up time and time and time again.
Were they asking about coverage levels for it?
Yep. Is it covered? Is it covered? Is it covered? And it was surprising because I've just never seen that before until this year.
So I have this like somewhat radical opinion.
Okay. I want to hear.
I have a somewhat
radical
opinion on, I'm applying the same framework to GLP-1s that I'm about to describe.
Okay.
So with environmentalism stuff as a whole, and I'm a surfer. I stress about ocean water quality almost every single day. This is the context. My radical opinion on environmentalism has been that there is no future where the earth is actually saved as we think about it in environmental terms. The only future is essentially we will like change things about the earth. We will engineer things about the earth to ensure humanity's survival. If it's a bioengineered tree that takes carbon out of the atmosphere and that's part of the answer, we're going to do that. If it's like putting, fake grass everywhere, we're going to do that. If it means putting concrete everywhere, we're going to do that. If it means putting rubber balls all over the world into the water to deflect more sun, we're going to do that. That's just the history of human beings
Humans, yeah.
fundamentally. We're going to engineer our way out of global warming, but it's not going to look like an environmentalist's dream. It's going to look like an environmentalist nightmare. And that's simply the future because there's too much money being lost in insurance losses. I think the same thing about GLP-1s. Basically, this is inevitable. It is like the equivalent of the fundamental human behavior. We are just like water flowing towards a destination, and whatever the easiest path is going to be is how we're going to go. And so one group of humans has essentially figured out how to make food really addictive and how to produce it very cheaply. And some of that has been really good because we've gotten to feed a lot of people, and people don't really die of starvation anymore in developed countries, right? But it's produced this horrible outcome, which is addiction to food, overeating, a host of problems. Now we're going to take GLP-1s to negate this other set of issues, consequences that have arisen from a bunch of other scientific breakthroughs. We'll take some GLP-1s, and a new set of issues will come up that we don't yet anticipate. Some other drug will then be, maybe something with like nanobots. Maybe GLP-1s somehow hurt our blood vessel structure, and in 10 years, maybe 15 years, there's a whole generation of Americans whose blood vessels have been like absolutely wrecked by GLP-1s. But by that point, nanobots will be commercialized. And the nanobots will go in and repair your blood vessels from the damage of GLP-1s, so you can go and do another 10 years of GLP-1s. What we're heading towards is like, for my Star Trek fans out there, it's like the Borg. If you watch Dune, it's like the Harkonnens.
Oh gosh. Right.
Vlad is not an attractive human. Vladimir Harkonnen. But seriously, they're just like all chemicals, right? The rebels make some joke about how they can't even like harvest water from the Harkonnens because they're so gross and covered in chemicals. This is basically the future of humans, in my opinion.
Like you said, you started it with, I have a radical thing I'm going to say, but like, it doesn't sound that radical. It just sounds so plausible because it's what we've seen time and time again in the past.
I was hoping for a bigger reaction, I'll be honest.
No, I know. But that's isn't that kind of the scary thing though, that you like thought it was radical, and then I'm like, no, actually that makes sense. Yeah, I can see that happening. Yeah, this aligns.
What do you think happens to employers in that setup? So GLP-1s are kind of expensive right now.
I think probably cost is going to go down, or they're going to that is going to be something that comes up that they have to start supporting. I'm sure new benefits are going to come on the market that are going to either support GLP-1s or like fix the problems that come along with them. And then we need to add those on to benefit plans. We're starting to see a surge in digestive health benefits. A lot of that might come down to the need for it because processed foods and all of that.
I just looked up how much GLP-1s cost.
How much do they cost?
It's about $1,000 per month.
Okay, that's what I had heard in the past.
$1,000 a month is, that's basically the cost of a. Sorry, I'm just like doing the quick math on that.
$12,000.
If 40% of the United States has diabetes, GLP-1s are at least $1,000 a month. That basically wipes out the premium cost for. That's a huge. If you're not on GLP-1s and you're healthy, you're going to be heavily subsidizing people.
I was going to say you're going to be likely paying heavy premiums to cover employees that do have it, and it needs to be covered through the employer.
Oof, I think you're right about it as an add-on benefit.
Oh,
that doesn't feel fair at all.
No, can you imagine being like the employee that doesn't have it but having to subsidize? But that just like sets up a bad culture at the company.
Probably, right?
Yeah, because you're just going to have people upset related to health issues.
It's rare that there's like one thing you can point to and be like, oh, like Gary is talking about him being on GLP-1s. I know what that costs.
Yeah.
And it is like, I'm not saying there's not going to be reductions in long-term healthcare.
Right. There probably
costs.
is going to be.
There definitely will be. I feel like we struggle with anything that's like 5 years out plus. And this is like, this has vanity written all over it to begin with, to be quite honest, right?
The quick fix.
It's very much the quick fix.
Yeah. But we don't know what it. Yeah. we don't know what it's going to look like 2, 5, 10 years down the road.
I've been to like a lot of conferences this year and everyone's talking about it.
Are they saying this?
I don't know that I've fully processed the economics of this, how bad this is, because this is like kind of unique in that you've got a case for using it for legitimate
Yes.
need, like you're having type 2 diabetes or you're pre-diabetic, or like there's like a class of people that could be taking this drug that actually the economics really make sense and productivity gains make sense, and like I can almost guarantee, even without looking at the numbers, there's a group of people that this makes sense for.
Yes.
And the ROI is there.
I mean,
I think where this is going to get super sketch is like the tier down, where you're like 40, 45, 50 years old and you want your bod back.
right, because our society is obsessed with being young.
Yeah.
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 That's everything that the media presents to us.
Yeah, but also like people are legitimately overweight because the food supply sucks.
No, yeah, it's like this endless circle that
Yeah.
you can't get out of. You're like a hamster on a wheel.
That's why you become the Borg.
Yeah.
You engineer the environment, you take
Yeah.
the GLP-1s,
Yeah,
you put
it's just
yourself
like,
in a cube, you
keep
fly
going.
through space.
Yeah. Oh, the visualization.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Well, I mean, it all started to help the people that really needed it, but then it became more of a thing, and then people started paying for it out of pocket.
Yeah.
The media grabbed that, or at least that's how I've perceived it as in the, like, throughout the past year.
Well, and it's actually not just weight loss. We're also looking at like, I think there's like impact on it on a bunch of things. I'm just looking at this right now. Addiction and cravings. This is the big thing. Like anything that has to do with addiction, GLP-1s are able to
Quash that,
moderate your impulse to do things, like even like biting your nails.
Oh, really? It can do that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating. I thought it was more like people that are addicted to like sugar, or what I'm just using sugar as an example.
It turns out to
but
be driven by a lot of the same part of the brain that GLP-1s
Interesting.
impact. And
Okay.
I'm not like the right person to be describing the physiological function of GLP-1s. It stops things that are like that you like lack the willpower, the control to do. Like it's kind of crazy. So this is you see then the impact the stock prices for processed food companies. I mean, in addition to RFK coming in, like the stock prices for processed food companies went down pretty quick there too.
Pretty drastically, yeah.
Part of my thesis on humanity is that we're not going to be evolving through biological pressure, so like that's like environmental, so much as we're going to be evolving through like societal pressure. And to me, GLP-1s are, in a sense, could represent like an evolution of humans as we know them on a day-to-day basis in developed countries.
That feels like a more radical thought.
Cool. All right. Then I'll
you
live
got
there.
me. I'm like, whoa. But yeah, that's yeah. It's crazy to think about like how quickly stuff like this moves too, just in general. Like I don't even think I started hearing about GLP-1s until it was in the past year.
Yeah. There was like murmurs 18 months ago. And then last year it's been like,
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like make American healthy again. I'm in. I'm in for the ride. Let's see where it goes.
Let's see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, something does need to change.
I mean, Americans have absolutely
we're very unhealthy.
Lost trust anyways in science and institutions. And I think those institutions lost that trust. They gave it up. I mean, what other alternative is there? That's the beauty. I was actually thinking this is like one of the things that I love about America is that in a lot of other countries, for like whatever your politics, Trump got a mandate in a sense, but if you look at the popular vote, we're really talking about a few million Americans determining how this thing's like went. And I don't know the exact election count, but I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 million difference.
Yeah, I think it was that. And what you think about it, it's like that's not huge,
Let's see. Okay, so Trump got 76.8 million votes. Kamala got 74.4 million votes.
So it's about 2.
So it's about 2. Yeah. So about 2. So we're talking about like, 2 million people, just for context. So 4 million people live in Los Angeles.
So half of Los Angeles.
Los Angeles is basically the equivalent of what decided this election. I don't know that like most people really understand that.
Yeah.
It's not that many humans.
How many people are in the United States?
I think it's
What's the total?
336 million. But let me check.
That's such a small portion of that.
335 million.
Okay.
So we have this like system where 2 million votes nationally. And obviously it's the electoral college and that's a whole other factor, but that wasn't determined this time.
Yeah.
2 million votes equals mandate because of how they were distributed around the country, right? And in this system, those 2 million votes essentially gives, and the fact that they got the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And you could argue the Supreme Court is well in hand and will be even more so. It's essentially a mandate from what, like my interpretation of what this was. It's a mandate to demolish. Like, and the people who Trump is putting in, they're all basically demolishers.
Oh, look at the list. Yeah.
Mass firings, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a mandate to demolish by 2 million Americans.
Mm-hmm.
2 million Americans across the country distributed in the correct way. What's my point here? My basic point is that this probably is going to help America prevent a civil war. And in another country, there's a really good chance it would take a civil war to demolish the government enough where you would undo a bunch of things that don't make sense. And one of the things that mind boggles me is that I have things that I agree with Trump on. I have things that I disagree with Trump on. It's true. It just blows my mind that because 2 million Americans voted a certain way, the American government is never going to be the same.
Yeah.
The consequences of this are, again, I don't think most people fully understand it because we are going to see a fundamental shift in how America is positioned in the world and how the American government is positioned inside of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And these changes are going to last for at least a decade.
Oh, yeah.
And possibly
easily.
longer.
Yeah.
Because of 2 million Americans.
Never thought about it like that. That is really interesting.
How does it make you feel?
Perspective. It makes me appreciate our democracy because I'm like, okay, like, that's how the system is built. That's how it's supposed to work. But it also is kind of scary at the same time that it's that small of a number relative to our population that could sway it that much, where now we're going to have like a huge shift in the country. It's really not that big of a number. Relative to our full population,
And that's right. 336 million or 335 million is including children. So it's not
okay. So it's not going to be okay.
Yeah, vote eligible Americans that can vote. It's probably, and you have to fact check me on this, it's probably closer to 225 or 240.
But even so, that's like what 10% ish of the population then of the voting population.
Yeah.
Yeah. But clearly enough people needed to see a change happen.
Well, no. 2 million is closer to like 1%, not 10%.
Oh, okay. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, I was doing it against 20 million.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're right. I was like, oh, you're right.
Am I?
Because then I was like, it sounds high.
Yeah,
you're right. Oh, good point. Yeah. But even, okay, that makes it even like that's
1%.
1%.
Assuming my numbers are right.
Yeah.
But you know what's wild is when you like look at how revolutions unfold. Mm-hmm. In other countries, this is not dissimilar. There was a great book that I read years ago. It was actually this like longshoreman in San Francisco that studied how revolutions unfolded across like Nazi Germany, across the 1919 revolution in Russia. And he looked at a bunch of them and he found a very consistent pattern. And tell me if this sounds familiar. The pattern is that revolutions start by the people who look like they should be in power, but are somehow blocked out. Maybe they have the money, but for some reason they don't have the status because they don't fit the type that you're supposed to be as embodied by the people who are currently in power.
Okay. That sounds very familiar.
Sounds very familiar.
Yes.
I mean, Elon Musk is the freaking definition of this.
Yeah, he was the one that was
Donald
in my
Trump
mind
has
now.
been laughed at forever. This is very consistent. And so the people who are right outside of the power circle, they're the ones to seize power, and they seize power in conjunction with the disenfranchised masses. and they pair up. And this is a pair that happens in history over and
Time and
over
time
and
and time
over and over again, because this class has the access and the capital and the knowledge.
Yep.
And this class brings like
The
the
numbers and the
manpower and the
manpower.
populism.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
And so we're watching in real time. But again, like, it's called The True Believer by Eric Hoffer. Hoffer. 1902 to 1983, he was a self-educated person, worked in restaurants as a migrant field worker and gold prospector, worked as a longshoreman in San Francisco for 25 years. He wrote more than 10 books, including this one, and he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1983.
Oh, that's so cool. I just got chills. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
It's incredible.
I'll have to read that book.
America's just getting back to the place. I remember reading this bio when I first read this book, and I was
Yeah.
like, this could never happen today. And I actually feel like America is now again turning into a place where this could happen
Yeah.
because of how much media has changed and education's changing again. I guess my point back to RFK is also exactly like this kind of person. He's an outsider who's also on the inside.
Yeah.
And cyclically, we're probably due. And so it was either going to happen in a way that was, there's another really good book, The Changing World Order.
I've heard of that one. I've not read of it, but I've heard of it.
It's really, really long.
That's the one that goes into, that's the one that it would be like, this is the way you want it to happen versus it to be like a violent
Yeah, it's by Ray Dalio.
transition. Okay.
He again, like similar to Eric Hoffer, he studied
Revolution.
like how societies have evolved for like thousands of
Mhm.
years. I guess like the question is like, why are we talking about this on a podcast about benefits?
It's true.
And I kind of feel like it's relevant because we can't put our head in the sand and ignore the larger kind of like social context right now. And the social context that we're in is we're going to see a protracted period of change. Health and Human Services are a prime target of
Mhm.
this. It's going to impact employers one way or the other. It is inevitable. And it's impacting employees because they're hearing it and they're seeing it. And so like more people are probably going to get the question of like more employers, like, what are we doing about microplastics? Like these things are going to be in the popular culture for the next 4 years at least.
Yeah. And companies like need to, you're right, pop your head out of the sand and pay attention and plan for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, I hope they support it. I really do. Because like this isn't working for anyone. Like employers cannot continue to afford this.
No.
Like this is insane.
I mean, we even had groups that had 25, 30, 40% health insurance premium like increases this year. That is, like, can you imagine having to add that to your budget? Like the amount that you have to cut if your health insurance goes up 40% in other places is astronomical. They have to pay attention to this because it's going to affect their bottom line.
This is another area where I just feel like we've kind of, I know we make a big deal about it every year. Kaiser Family Foundation comes out with
Yeah.
the latest stats, or Willis Towers Watson or whoever, and we look at it and everyone's like, oh, yet another year. Oh no. And we all like, I've literally been doing this for 20 years, literally every year for 20 years. This is a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
1 year it might be like 3% instead of 7%. And we're like, oh,
that's nice.
we had a good year. We're
Yeah.
not sure why. Every year, by the way, it's also like,
this year.
we're not sure why this happened, but it's
Yeah.
low. It's below trend.
Yeah.
And next year it just goes back up.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out and how it affects benefits and employees.
Are you scared?
A little. But also,
I kind of
like,
feel like a scared vibe from
like
you.
a little, but I'm also just very intrigued about like what's going to change. And I truly, like, every part of me hopes it's going to be for the better. Like, I have dealt with people in my family with cancer, and like I know that the cost burden of that in itself. And then it's like, okay, so young people are getting cancer, they're going to have to work through that based on what that article was. I remember reading that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's like that in itself is unsustainable. Just given my experience with it. So you get that, and then it's like the benefits that companies have to try and help support this. Like, it's just I've seen the endless. Basically, my point is I've seen the endless cycle firsthand, and it's really hard. And every part of me hopes that we're able to figure out something that makes the starting point for employees and people better, so we don't need all of these things to keep them healthy.
Yeah. Here.
Yeah.
Wishes for the new
I
year.
know. I know. So I'm a little scared, but I'm also intrigued or excited about the good that can come from it. Because I think there can be a lot of good that comes from this.
And I think that's the net.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people are talking about that. And I know like some of these people and figures are questionable and they've done some stuff morally. But I think if we can get some of the good out of it, then let's focus on that, because that's actually the most important thing.
Yeah, it's already so bad.
And yeah, exactly. It's so bad that like if we can even make an incremental change,
yeah,
that is actually huge. I'm hopeful.
Wishes for
I
the
think
new year.
I was a little scared, but I'm actually hopeful.
Yeah. Well, I hope you have a nice Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too.
I mean, I'll be seeing you on Thanksgiving.
Exactly.
We're going to the same Friendsgiving.
I know, we're going to the same one. We'll be eating turkey and...
What are you making? Did you pick a thing?
I did. I have noticed that you did not put anything.
What do you mean? I took 2 things. Mashed potatoes
today?
and Brussels sprouts. No, earlier this week.
I did not see your name on the list today.
Rachel's
I was
gonna
double
kill me.
checking.
No.
Your name is definitely not on mashed
It got
potatoes.
overwritten. That means it got overwritten.
I don't know. Your name was not on it because I was trying to not pick too many things because I was like, some people haven't signed up yet. Now I'm worried.
Some people. You mean Vlad's, Kate? You mean Vlad's?
Some people named Vlad have not signed up. And I was like, I definitely assumed you were going to do the mashed potatoes.
I'm still waiting for one good Vlad in popular media.
You.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go. Okay, wait, I'm just refreshing this list.
What,
right
are you
now.
actually looking at the Thanksgiving list right now?
Vlad, you're not. You do not. Somebody named Zach signed up. I don't know who that is. I don't see your name listed anywhere.
It got overwritten.
Okay, or you didn't sign up. I'm just kidding.
After this podcast, I'm going to pick up chairs for this Thanksgiving. I'm going to lift things.
Aww,
Yeah.
that's so nice.
Yeah, I'm donating my labor as well as intending to donate for food.
There's just going to have to be so you said you're going to do mashed potatoes, and then what's the other thing?
Well, nothing now.
Well, no, because now we can just have a fun contest, like whose potatoes are better.
I have a hat that says it's mashed potatoes.
I know,
time.
that's why
my potatoes are obviously going to be better.
That's specifically why I didn't pick mashed potatoes, is because you have the hat.
But Zach doesn't know about the hat.
Oh, and Brussels sprouts? Was that the other thing?
Yeah. Who took Brussels sprouts?
Liz.
Okay. Yeah. I do have to give a shout out to Rachel. Rachel Connors. Buy a leaf hammock.
Oh, seriously. We do.
This is
yeah,
some solid...
it's going to be a really impressive Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Let's just raise expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hype it up. Everyone should come.
Now she's going to get mad at you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Everyone is coming. All right. Well, it's time to wrap it up.
Okay.
I have to go pick up chairs.
Yeah, you're already late.
I'm already late.
You're supposed to leave 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, it's a good conversation.
Yeah.
It was like a really good conversation. I appreciate you. It was like fun.
That was a fun one.
Yeah.
It's such a controversial topic. Like, part of me,
There's no way to wrap this up.
Yeah, I know.
Cue the cool outro music.
There we go.